work as a display account specialist for our UK AdWords advertisers. And recently on this page, we posted up a webinar on how to promote your app using AdWords. So just as a quick follow-up to that webinar, which was very good and very detailed, we thought it would be good to actually do kind of a very quick, but hopefully very detailed live demo in one of my personal accounts here. So I'm going to just go through each of the steps that were mentioned in the webinar, but do it within the account so you can see an actual step-by-step setup process. So in my account here, you can see all my campaigns that I have. And I'm going to start with a search campaign, mobile search campaign to download apps. So this is search network only. And give it a minute here to load. Okay, now the default here will be standard, but make sure you click all features because you need the additional features to really take advantage of all the options within AdWords to use mobile search. So I'm just going to call this mobile search test and include the search partners. Now it's very important that you want to just target the app store that's related to your app. So I'm going to add Android. This is a very nice setting here because if your app only allows certain versions, you have the flexibility to add the minimum version or the max version. So you want to make sure, obviously, that you're only advertising to people who can use your app. So I'm going to target all the Android versions. There are other options here, but these are quite niche. So usually we wouldn't recommend using them unless obviously there's a very, very specific reason, especially then also Wi-Fi and carriers. And we'll target the United Kingdom here because that's the market I usually work in. But obviously you have all the choices there. Something I also, for this kind of campaign, if I just want to target the UK, then I would say people in my targeted location or people in my excluded location. But for apps, there's usually no reason to do that, so you can just do anyone who's searching for or about pages in your target location. Basically what that means is if someone is looking for UK apps, but they're not in the UK, your ad would still show. So that's why it's good to just allow that additional flexibility. Okay, for a mobile search campaign, mobile traffic tends to be a lot cheaper. I just put about 50 euros. You can kind of, it's always good with search to start out stronger, just so you can make sure you're capitalizing on all possible traffic. And depending on your budget, the default is standard, but if you're not using up your entire budget every day, you can put accelerated to try to show more often. And save and continue. We'll make an ad group. So I'm going to promote my favorite app here, the Chrome app. Put whatever you want here. Be careful about using symbols. If you're not familiar with AdWords, there are some strict editorial guidelines. So don't put a lot of exclamation marks or other symbols. You can get one exclamation mark in the whole ad. And it's the same with capitalization and stuff. It has to look quite nice and user-friendly. So then this next step is quite important because you want people, when they see the ad on their mobile phone, to be able to download it right away. So here is the app on my desktop, and you copy from Play to Store there. So you see play.google.com.store. And then this is a very important part for all app download campaigns, is this part of the URL. So you want to copy from the question mark ID equals to the and symbol. So you don't want to include the and symbol there. So this is the link that will drive people directly to the app download. Okay. And then you select some keywords that you want people to find your app on. So one thing, for example, if you have a gaming app and you want to try to reach people that are playing games, you can use keywords like best game app. So that's a good way to try to reach out to new traffic, people who aren't looking for your app. So for example, if I wanted people to download Chrome, if anyone was looking for web browsers or web browser downloads or mobile browsers, so anything related to the app that you think if someone was searching for that, they'd be interested in the app and would want to download it. Obviously, the more relevant your keywords are, the better the campaign will perform. And you just want to keep an eye out on words that are too generic, because they might start costing you more. So you can see now I have these keywords, which are going to show on mobile and tablets. Again, I'll just show my campaign settings again quickly. So it's all features on the search network, search, selected mobile and tablet operating systems. And again, I'm targeting just Android, and then targeting the UK. And that's my campaign. And if you go back to ad groups, you can check, okay, this is my ad group, this is my ad, and then, sorry, these are my keywords. So after the campaign starts spending money, you can also see how each keyword is performing and also check the date range. Another nice thing here is the Dimensions tab, which was also mentioned in the webinar, where you can view how your campaign is performing by day of the week, by the hour of the day. You can check your reach and frequency, your conversions, etc., etc. There's a lot of nice details here you can play around with. So the next thing you should do is mobile app conversions. So conversions on app downloads is obviously the download of the app. And at the moment, we can track Android app downloads only for various legal reasons. So if we do a new conversion, you can do mobile app download, Chrome download, and the package name. Now again, this was mentioned in the webinar, but I'll just remind you, the package name is that part here which comes between the and symbol and the equal sign, the question mark ID equal sign. So by putting just that in, you can also check it to make sure it was correct, and it was. And if you check it and it's not correct, it means then somehow you copied the package name incorrectly, and then you can save and continue. So there's no code necessary because AdWords is reading the App Store download directly. So it's very easy to set up. So now if anyone downloads this app due to this campaign, I'll see it as a conversion within my campaign settings. And I'll just go back to that campaign. I'm going to pause it so it doesn't run. And you can see if anyone downloads the app, it'll count as a conversion. So, okay, so going on to the next kind of app download campaign. Now the search is kind of just if you have some awareness of your campaign or you're trying to reach out to new traffic. the traffic on search campaigns should be a lot lower. So if you're really doing a strong push to get your app a lot of downloads in a short period of time, which is the strategy you want to take, because the more downloads it gets in the shorter period of time, the faster it'll rise in the organic listing in the Play Store or in the iTunes App Store. So that way, if you put a strong campaign in the beginning, then you'll get more organic downloads as well, because 90% of downloads are done just by searches of the top apps in the respective app stores. So to do this kind of campaign, go back to all online campaigns, and you're going to want to do a display network only. So the app network is considered part of the display network. And you see the option here for mobile apps. Okay. So this means you're going to be showing up in other apps promoting your own app. Again, you want to make sure you're targeting the right app. So for this one, I'm going to do Apple, the iOS apps. And again, I'm just going to target the United Kingdom. Now with apps, with app targeting, just going to again put a euro day, you can have a much lower CPC bid. Now obviously it's going to vary depending on how you target it, but you can expect to get average CPCs of around 10 to 15p, or 10 to 15 euro cents. And you can get even lower than that. So usually we would recommend a bid in that range, between 10 and 15 euro cents or p, depending on which market. Usually there's quite a lot of inventory, so there's not really a need to do accelerated delivery. But if you are finding it hard then to hit your daily budget, then you can do an accelerated delivery. There's all these other options here as well, which are normal in AdWords. So this is again going to be the Chrome app promo. I'm just going to bid 10p here. Now the nice thing here is you get a choice between image ad or text ad. Now if you look here quickly at the image ads, you can see that there are 4 sizes that are allowed. But to just be very clear, the size that is allowed on mobiles is the 320 by 50. And then these other 3 ad formats here will only show on tablets. So just so you're aware of that difference. There are occasionally, there's a chance that this inline rectangle can show on mobile phones in a more condensed version. But really this is your main mobile ad format. And then all you need is the name of the image, and then the same display URL and destination URL rules that you used for the search campaign. The text ad is the same. And if you go back to the webinar, you can see that the text ad has kind of 4 views that it scrolls through. So if you fill out just this one section, you'll get all 4 of those different screens pop up to promote the app download. And it'll do that automatically if you put a destination URL for the Chrome Play Store or the iTunes Store. So just to repeat that, if you go back to that webinar, you can see that the text ad is actually 4 different banner ads that play right after each other that kind of help promote the idea of an app download. So the text ad format is actually very, very effective for driving app downloads, and so you don't always need to feel that you need to have an image ad. But again, if you have the creative ability, if you have the creative there, then it's good to use both as well, and you can compare how they perform. See which one works better for you. So there's 2 options here for targeting, and one of the best things to do, obviously, if you have an app in a certain category, then you can promote it across that entire category. So if your app is in the education section of the Google Play Store, then you can target all the other education apps because you can assume that there's at least some amount of crossover to your target audience. And then you can also look through the different categories and pick the ones that would be best for you. So I like finance, so I've made a finance app. And then I think some of these other ones that might be related, not the games, but maybe news and magazines and productivity, and I think maybe health and fitness and communication. So I feel like, and business, of course. So I feel like this group of categories might go well with my apps. But if you remember, this app is actually for the iTunes Store. So always make sure you're targeting correctly. And so I have to choose the categories from the iTunes Store. So finance, they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty much similar. News, and then the iTunes Store has the newsstand one, which gets a little bit more detailed. Electronics, news and politics, professional trade, science, and productivity, reference. Okay, so these are the categories I feel are most relevant. It is depending on your budget, and again, if you're taking a strategy where you want to push a lot of app downloads in a short period of time, you obviously don't want to limit yourself too much by the targeting you're going to use. That being said, if you have a very small budget and you're kind of trying to get incremental app downloads, then you would want to stick with a smaller targeting method. So maybe just one category. But if you're targeting one category, this is something else to keep in mind, then there'll be a lot, you should probably bid a little bit higher because you won't get as many impressions and you want to compete more for that very refined targeting space. Another thing you can do now is you can actually search for other apps to see if you can show in them. Right? So it's one of my favorite apps here. And you can see that these are all the apps that you can add. So then you'll be showing up in these specific apps, and they give you kind of an impression range for each of these apps. So maybe because the app I was intending to have made is in finance, I'll see if there's any apps with the name finance. Stockwatch, there we go. So I want to add that one because that would be related. Money for iPad, that sounds like it could be quite related. You can always just check by clicking on the link. There you go. It's a finance app. So perfect. So as you can see, there's a lot of flexibility in the targeting. You can choose individual apps, and you can choose entire categories. So, no, didn't make a text ad, sorry. So I'm just again, I'm just going to use the one I have here, but hopefully you have an idea of how this works now. Again, you want to just go to the answer. Actually, since I should probably use this one as an example. Again, I've made that mistake of crossing over Play and the iTunes App Store. So again, that's always something to be careful of because it's an easy mistake to make. So now that I have this app in the iTunes Store, I want to just use this. So you can go, and then for this, you just make sure to include the ID number there. So oftentimes this will be longer, and there'll again be an and sign and some other code there on the top. You want to stop it after the ID and the number. And save. So then how do you check this campaign? Here's the ad. Then where are the targeting methods and how do you check them? So because this is a display campaign, everything is in the Display Network tab. So you click into there. And with app targeting, everything is in placements. So the category and the actual app are in the placement section. So if you go into Manage Placements, you can see all the different kind of targetings you have. So those would be the individual apps, and then you can also see the categories that you chose. So after this campaign runs for a while, you can always sort by cost, and it'll sort by the most expensive to the least. You can sort by impressions to see which apps you're showing up in the most, and any of these other metrics that you want to track. So that's basically the two different types of targeting, the search and the in-app targeting. There's one other kind of targeting if you feel confident and are an advanced AdWords user, where you can target the global display, the mobile Google Display Network. Sorry. So the way to set this up is, again, go back to all campaigns. And again, I want to warn everyone that this is a bit more complicated. So if you feel like you still have to try out these other two, then I would recommend doing that first and sticking just with the mobile search and with the in-app targeting. But if you feel confident to try to expand out and want to get even more app downloads, then you need to do a mobile GDN, or mobile Google Display Network. This, if you're familiar with AdWords, is actually exactly the same as targeting the entire Google Display Network, but just on mobile devices. And it encompasses two different kinds of websites. It can be a desktop website that people are looking at through a mobile phone, or it can be a mobile website. So those wouldn't get covered in in-app targeting, but people are still on their mobile phones and still online. So they still have the potential, and a very strong potential actually, to be interested in downloading an app. The reason this is so much trickier is because the targeting is a lot more complex. And because this is so complex, this wasn't actually covered in the webinar. And I'm only going to go over it very quickly because it should really only be for advanced AdWords users that already have some experience with running GDN campaigns. So it's display network only, all features, but not the mobile app features. Again, make sure you pick the right device. So this time I'll do Android again. And then in this case, the targeting is much more relevant and has to be much more granular because the amount of inventory is much higher and you will use up a lot more of your budget if you're not careful. So So there's different targeting methods here. For this ad group, I'm going to pick keyword targeting and a default bid on mobile, again, of about 50p. Display keywords. So again, there are different kinds. You can do interest and remarketing. You can do topic targeting. You can do website placement targeting. And you can even target by age and gender using inferred demographics. And you can also layer these targeting methods on top of each other. So you can show across a certain topic and a certain age and gender demographic. So I'm just going to do interests because it's simple. And again, you have something similar to the category split out on the Google Play Store, but you have to be careful because these are all websites that are related to this. So for my imaginary finance app, I'm going to go with banking and credit and lending. You can see the reach is quite high. And then there's an option to target it further. So I only want to go for specific ages. I don't want the young people, but the more experienced crowd. And save and continue. And then you make the ads. You can use an image ad or a text ad. Or you can kind of create your own image ad using one of our templates. And you can see here they have the mobile ad sizes. Sorry, they have the desktop ad sizes. So what happens when someone views a desktop site on a mobile device, they still see the desktop-sized ads. So for this kind of campaign, you would need the desktop-sized ads and the mobile-sized ads, because they'll show in separate places. And again, text ads being one of the most efficient because it can show up everywhere. And it also has one of the best. We've translated the text ads so that if someone's on a mobile device, it's more mobile friendly. So those are the basic ways to promote an app. Again, we strongly recommend you stick with the mobile search and then with the mobile in-app. And if you're interested in doing kind of this more complex mobile GDN targeting to generate more app downloads, then I would recommend doing a lot of going through some of the self-study on the Google Display Network because it works the same way, just on mobile devices. So that's a wrap-up. I hope that was useful. Again, I think this was for maybe people starting out on AdWords for the first time or who maybe have some experience with AdWords but haven't really done any kind of app promotion before, and would strongly recommend first, again, that you review the webinar. The webinar was very good as far as explaining the step-by-steps, but we hope that this kind of walkthrough was also beneficial in case you had further questions or if anything was unclear. All right, thank you, and wish you the best of luck in your app promotion. Bye-bye.